so happy you're here, and I am so excited. Today we are going to make gluten-free pizza, but not just any gluten-free pizza. We're going to make the world's best gluten-free pizza. Now, yeah, everybody says mine's the best, it's the world's best, it's this, but I actually have that claim to fame. In 2016, I entered the International Pizza Challenge pizza competition in Las Vegas in the gluten-free division, and to my surprise and Rich's surprise, we actually won. So we have 2016's World Best Gluten-Free Pizza, and I'm going to show you how to make the pizza crust that pizza was made on. And if there's a link up here right now, you'll learn how to make the entire World's Best Gluten-Free Pizza, which is a chicken, bacon, broccoli ranch, dairy-free too. If you don't see a link up here, we haven't posted a video yet, so make sure you subscribe so that you know as soon as that video goes up. Now, this is going to be a pizza, I think, like you haven't had in a long time if you've been gluten-free for a while. Pizza was the thing I missed the most when I went gluten-free, and hence this is why we created the recipe, and everything that happened after that happened. In my mind, pizza should be crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside. It should have air bubbles, air pockets in there so that it makes it light and fluffy, but yet has a substance to it. It should taste yeasty and bready and absolutely delicious. And most gluten-free crusts on the market today, on the market for the last 10 years, have none of that. None of that at all. Cauliflower crusts are great, almond crusts are great. I understand the need for those, but it's not pizza. If you've been craving pizza, like you remember, this is the recipe you need to make. It's not hard, it's not easy, it's somewhere in between. But after you make it a couple times, it's going to be so easy. You're going to have pizza night every Friday. So if you're ready, we're going to jump right in. So I already have my ingredients pre-measured. So in my mixing bowl, I've got the white rice flour and the tapioca flour. In this small bowl here, the other dry ingredients are what I call the supplemental ingredients. We have soy milk powder, kosher salt, sugar, baking powder, xanthan gum, and gelatin. And all these ingredients are very important. They all do a specific job in this recipe. So I urge you to make the recipe exactly as you find it, and don't deviate, because I cannot guarantee the outcome if you do. And speaking of the recipe, in the description below, there's a link to the full written recipe. Well, it's not really written, it's on the website that you can print out with all the step-by-step directions too. And alternately, you can go to gfexplorers.com and find it there. And then the other ingredients I have are my wet ingredients, which is sunflower oil, which I prefer over canola, much better flavor, egg whites, and vinegar. The only other ingredient missing is what would go in here, and that would be the water. Something very special about the water. It can't be tap water, it can't be just any water, it has to be carbonated water. That's what's gonna bring a lot of air to the pizza crust. Matter of fact, we use carbonated water in everything we bake. And you have two ways to get carbonated water. One is to make it in a soda stream, which I'm gonna do shortly. And if you don't have a soda stream, the second way will work just as well, is to buy some club soda from the store, which is carbonated, and use that. You will need to heat it in the microwave up to 110 degrees so you can activate your yeast, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But right now, let's go make some water. If you're gonna use a soda stream to make water, you're gonna go to your sink, let your tap run on warm, and I have a probe thermometer that I have in the stream, and I'm temping it to 110 degrees. And once you get to 110 degrees, you fill your soda stream bottle up to the line, which is usually indicated on every bottle. Okay, got that in. And then you carbonate your water. You put the bottle in, press down. Oh, I love that sound. And we're all carbonated. The water in my soda stream bottle is nicely carbonated. I'm about to activate the yeast. If you're using club soda, you're gonna wanna measure it out into your measuring bowl, which is 1.75 cups, right there. And then you're gonna put it in the microwave, and you're gonna heat this water to 110. You're gonna wanna use a probe thermometer to temp it. Make sure you're at 110. Too much over that, you're gonna kill your yeast. Too much under that, you're not gonna activate your yeast. So stay around 108 to 110 is a good place to be. And then once you do that, then everything I'm going to do here is going to be identical, even if you have the club soda. So I have my water, and I have my tiny little whisk, which I love. It's perfect for doing this. So I'm going to start whisking my carbonated water, and I'm putting the yeast in. And as you can see, it's really foaming up. If you don't get this foaming action, you probably have bad yeast. So make sure that you see foams. It's not going to stay foamy. It's going to eventually settle down, but it should do this at the very beginning. Okay, now we're ready to mix. All the dry is in the bowl. This is very important. The supplements was in a separate bowl, and then the flours were in the mixing bowl, and I put them together because we need to mix wet into dry. You're going to want to use your paddle attachment, not your whisk, not your dough hook. So I'm going to get that attached. I'm going to lift up my bowl, very important. I usually forget to do that. And I'm going to sit it on one, let all my dry ingredients get incorporated a little bit. And then I'm going to pour in the oil, the egg whites, and the vinegar. And get all that oil out of there. That'll stick. And then I'm going to slowly add in all of the water. And you have to do it slowly, that is important. I could explain to you why, but just trust me, slow. Okay, I'm going to grab this and get some of that yeast that was left. Okay, we are good. I'm going to turn it up to 2. And I'm going to go up to 4, and it's going to mix for 3 minutes. Okay, we're done. I'm so excited. I can't wait to show you what this dough looks like. Let me bring it over here. Now, this dough, like all gluten-free dough, is going to be very, very sticky. It's really not it's a dough, it's a batter. It's somewhere between a dough and a batter. So I am going to wet my hands in this little bowl of water I have here, and I'm going to grab some dough. Oh, it feels perfect. If you can see this well enough, it's kind of like frosting. It has that texture of frosting. It's soft. There's no grittiness, no graininess. You can tell it's not a dough because it's going to slide here. It is not a batter. It's somewhere in between. Now, when you mix, if you don't see your dough starting to spread around the side of the bowl like you saw in the video, you might need to add a little bit of water. Turn the speed down, add some water. Everybody's at a different, altitude, humidity, so that's going to affect it. You don't want it to be soupy at all. So you saw what this looks like. That's your goal. So if you have to add a little bit of water, that's fine. It's fine if it isn't the yeast water that you activated. It's just a little extra water, perfectly fine. And you'll kind of get the hang of it, and you'll be able, after you've made, 8 or so pizza crusts, you'll be able to say, oh, yeah, that needs some water. Not quite as humid today. Needs some more water. So I'm going to stick my hand in here again and try to get all the dough off of the paddle, because I don't like to waste any of this deliciousness. And now it's time for its first rise. It's going to go through 2 rises. I'm going to take my spatula, stick it in the water so that helps with the stickiness, and I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Nothing fancy, you're just scraping it off the sides. I mean, literally, that's all you're doing. You're not making a form, you're not making it pretty, you're just scraping it. And we're going to add some plastic wrap. Okay, now we're going to seal it. And now it is going to sit on the top of the oven because the oven is on, and we're going to get that heat from the oven is going to heat up this bowl and heat up the dough and cause it to rise. We are going to sit on the top of the oven for 20 minutes. Okay, so while the dough is doing its first rise on the oven, we have a task that we need to complete. To be able to make a nice 10-inch pizza crust, you kind of need a guide, or at least I need a guide. I used to do it when I first started years ago making pizza crusts. I didn't have a guide. Some of my pizzas were square, some were oval. It didn't turn out well. So I came up with a way to do this. So I have a bowl which is about 10 inches, and I've got 4 sheets of parchment paper. Now I have the curly side up for a reason. I'll show you that in a minute. So I take a pen, I've got like a Sharpie, and I just trace the bowl. I put a little check here too so I know which side is up. And the reason is, if you form your pizza crust on the side you just printed on, you're going to get black marks on the bottom of your pizza. You don't want that. So I'm going to put this face down on my sheet pan, and I can see my check mark is backwards, so I know that I did that right. And then I'm just going to spray it because we do need to spray the pan, the parchment, sorry. And so that way I know that that is done already, and I'm going to put that to the side. And so I'm going to do the rest of my parchment papers the same exact way. Okay, so we've got all our papers. Now we just wait. What do we got? We have 14 minutes to wait. Waiting for pizza is tough, but believe me, it's going to be worth it. So the dough has been sitting on the oven for 20 minutes. It's ready to go. You can see it's got a little condensation under the plastic wrap, which is a good sign. It looks amazing. It looks a little bit bigger than it was, well, actually a lot bigger, which is exactly what we want. So now it is time to scoop. I am super excited. So I'm going to bring my bowl over here. So we have 4 crusts. We're going to scoop 2, form 2, rise them, and then we're going to scoop the other 2, form those 2, rise them while the other ones are in the oven. Because we're going to do a parbake involved, and I will get to that. So I like to form right onto my parchment, so I am going to grab just the parchment paper and leave the sheet pan here. I have a digital scale. I'm going to move over here a little closer. And I'm going to put my bowl that I'm going to scoop into on the digital scale. And I'm going to make sure I tare it, which means zero it out, because I want 0. I'm spraying my bowl. And I have this amazing, wonderful scoop here, which I have the link to it on Amazon in the description below. It's going to make scooping very easy. And I'm going to spray that too, because remember, sticky. Gluten-free equals sticky. So the goal here is 260 grams will make us a 10-inch crust. So I am going to start scooping until I get to 260 grams. 225, I'm almost there. And so I'm going to show you here. Okay, so I got water because I'm just going to grab a little bit of this because I'm really close, a little over. If you get a little over, you're fine. Okay, so I'm going to show you this dough. If you can see all the air in that, the pockets, it's not smooth, it's kind of dimpled. That means you've got some really well risen dough. Okay, so I'm going to take this and put it here. Move that over there, and I'm going to scoop my second one. I'm going to do 2 at a time. I like to get the scooping out of the way because once I get into the forming, my hands are going to be a little messy. And a little more. It takes a little while to get good at scooping, as you can see. It's not an exact science. Well, it is an exact science. It's 260 grams, but you know what I mean. Okay, so this one I'm going to sit over here for now. Okay, this is the forming part. This is going to be fun, or it could be scary. It depends how you look at it. I love doing this. Now, this is my technique. Do it my way, because I said so, which I'm just kidding. Do it my way first, just so you know it's going to turn out, and then do however you want. There's no right or wrong way. The end goal is a beautiful, wonderful pizza, and however you get there is wonderful. Okay, so I take it, and I'm balling it up in my hand, and I take it, and then I slam it down, which that's the fun part. Because what I want to do is I want to kind of spread it around before I even start spreading it around. This dough is absolutely beautiful. It's nicely risen. When you do this, you're going to feel the lightness under your hands that the dough feels like. And so what I'm doing is I'm using really from here to here, from here to fingertip. I'm not getting into the palm or anything. And I'm slowly, gently pushing it out to my circle. And then I'm going to go over, and as you run your hand over this, like I'm barely touching it, you can feel if you're level or not level. And if you do too hard, you see what's going to happen. You're going to push it like that, that's not what you want. It's a very light, I would almost say feather-like touch, but you'll get the hang of it once you do it a few times. Okay, now that we have it spread out beyond the circle, which I think I'm really beyond the circle now. Now I'm going to make sure I have water. The water is really important. And I'm going to push it inside the circle. Because what this is doing, this is the first step to make that thicker outside of the crust, which is my favorite part of the crust. Okay, I'm inside the circle. And the circle's a little hard to see right now, but it's here. And I'm about a ½ inch inside. And now for the last step, I'm going to push it back out to the circle. I'm putting my right hand here as a guide and to push up against. And again, a feather-like touch, and I'm spreading the dough out and going in this clockwise manner. You notice I'm moving the parchment paper and then I'm going to do this a little bit too as I go, because it gives you the best angle. You come around. You want to come from 12 to maybe, 3 or 4, and then move it. 12 to 3 or 4 and move it. And there you go. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to have that edge, and your center needs to be fairly level, which it is. That is beautiful. To pick this up with parchment paper, don't go like this. Go on the corners, the opposite corners. And I'm going onto my sheet pan. I'm on my sheet pan, and I'm putting it on one side of the oven. It's going to sit there and rise while I work on my second crust. Ooh, that's my favorite part. Okay. Pushing it out. This one I think is going to give me an example to show you what happens if you don't get a nice smooth edge on the sides and how to fix that. Every dough ball is different. I have formed tens of thousands of these dough balls, and each one has its own personality, and no two act the same way. I don't know why that is, it just is. Okay, so now I'm going to go feather light touch over the top, smoothing it out, checking where my low spots and high spots are. And as you move your hand back and forth, I'm actually moving the dough and having it go where I want it to go. Okay, so now I'm going to start my push process, getting inside the circle while I rotate the paper. And now I'm going back through and pushing back out. It's a push in, a push out. Okay, so here's a ridge here. I don't know if you can see that really well. I didn't like that ridge, so I'm going to push this down a little bit and smooth it and go back. Now, like I said, I've done this for a very long time. I know exactly how I want my pizza crust. Yours, by no means, has to look like this or perfect. Really, it just needs to be in a relatively circle shape and be fairly level. That's what you're going for. So please do not let this whole forming process trip you up or stress you out. It's not worth it. The pizza's going to be amazing no matter what it looks like. I happen to love this process. It's very kind of like artistic for me, and so I really get into it. Now I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes, and I'll let these rise, and I'm going to start working on the other two. So you just want to get some. So what we're going to do is put one pizza on each rack, and we're going to cook for 7 minutes, and then we are going to flip them so that they cook evenly. So what we're doing is par cooking the crust for 15 minutes, 7 minutes and 7 minutes, about 15 minutes, because you can't really top, excuse me, the pizzas when the dough is raw. So we're going to give them a nice par cook, and then if you wanted to top them at that point and then cook them again to finish, you could do that. Or once they're par cooked and they come out of the oven, you cool them down, you put them in the freezer for use next time. And now we're going to take the 2 crusts that I did while those were rising and put them on the oven while the other ones are cooking. If you don't have 4 sheet pans but you only have 2, no worries. You can take your parchment, put it on top of the oven to let it rise while your other 2 are cooking, and when those come out of the oven, you pull them off the pans, you put these 2 on the pans, and then you bake them. So don't worry if you don't have 4 sheet pans. Okay, we're done. Well, we're not done. It's time to flip. Okay, let's get these puppies flipped around. Oh my goodness, look how good they look. Holy cow. Perfection. Okay, top goes to the bottom. Bottom goes to the top. You can see that they don't have much color on them right now. They're doing exactly the way they're supposed to. Matter of fact, the whole parbaking process, you don't want a ton of color. They're perfect right now. Just trust me. Pizza crusts are done. Let's get them out of the oven. Okay, we have a little, okay, I'm going to stop here. We got a little bit of browning around the edge. That's absolutely perfect. I don't want the sheet pan on the cooling rack, so I really want them to cool. So you saw me, I just pulled that right off. This is going in the sink. And I'm going to pull my other one. It looks equally as good. Oh, look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. That one's coming off. Sheet pan, go away. Now we're going to take our other 2, put them in the oven the exact same way that we did the first 2. 7 minutes. Setting the timer. Okay, all 4 pizzas are out of the oven. They're fairly cool, and I want to show you something really important. This is from the first batch that went in the oven, and this is from the second. Now you got a little bit of color on the outside here, hardly any color there. A lot of color on the bottom, not much color here. So what I can tell you is this probably could have gone a couple minutes less on the parbake in the oven. But if your pizza turns out looking like this, you're perfectly fine. We're going to top it. It's going to go in the oven. It's going to be beautiful. This is the ideal though. And sometimes you're going to have to adjust your temperature and time. Now granted, when I did the first one, we were shooting a lot more video. I think it stayed in a little bit longer. So the 7 minutes is a target, but you may want to go 6 and 6, 5 and 5. It depends on your oven. It depends on a lot of things. So just keep an eye on it. But know that if you don't have a ton of color on your parbake, you're good. Because you can see we've got a little bit of color here. Both of these are going to make terrific pizzas, but I have to make a choice. So I am going with this one. This is what we're going to make our pizza. Okay, so I've got my crust. I've got our homemade sauce. We make this from scratch. Up here, here's the recipe. I'll also put a link to it in the description below. Now, depending on how saucy you are, how much you're going to want to put down here. I'm not a huge sauce person, but let's be clear, I also don't do dairy, and this is going to be a dairy-full pizza, so it's really not up to me. It's mostly for Rich, and our son is going to eat this, so I'm going to kind of put a medium amount of sauce. Now, I like to have a good amount of edge on the sides, so I'm going to put a little more sauce in the middle. I'm not the type of person who likes their pizza, the sauce to go all the way to the edge. So this is a good amount in my book. And now I'm going to put down some mozzarella, some pre-shredded mozzarella. This is pre-shredded. The best option is to buy unshredded mozzarella and shred it yourself. But we wanted to do quick and easy, so we have the pre-shredded. It'll work just fine. The non-shredded that you shred yourself is just slightly better. And obviously lots of cheese, because I can't really eat cheese, and so I want everybody to eat a lot of cheese. So I am totally cheesing up this pizza. We're just going to go straight up, simple pepperoni pizza. And I'll lay these on. Oh, what happened to you? You can't fall down on the job. There, okay. He's all better now. Get a fair amount of pepperoni. Okay, and then I like to hit it with a little bit of Italian seasonings. Even though there's lots of flavor in the pizza sauce, I want a little bit more flavor. Okay, this is going in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. Again, you're gonna need to watch it. Oven times vary. What you're gonna look for is a nice crispy brown crust and your cheese to be completely melted. I'm gonna set the timer at 12 minutes and check it and see where we are. The pizza I really can't eat but want to very badly is out of the oven. I've got it on a cooling rack, giving it a little bit of cooling before I get the knife in there. I think we're good, so I am going to put it on the cutting board. I've got my insanely large knife that I love to cut pizza with, or you can use a pizza cutter. The kind of rolling pizza cutter is fine. I like this because it doesn't really move anything when you cut. So I'm going to cut it into 8 slices. Oh, it looks so amazing. Oh, and the smell. Oh, I wish you could smell how great it tastes. Okay, so here we go. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that is just, that's hot. Look at all that steam on there. This turned out beautiful. Look at that crust. You've got lots of wonderful crustiness, for a better word. Okay, so I am dairy free. However, I could have like 1 bite of this and be okay. I'm not like allergy dairy. It just makes me feel bad. So I'm going to go over here and get most of the crust, and I'm going to try this, not as much cheese. Oh my God, that crust is so amazing. It's so fluffy, yet crunchy on the outside, chewy on the outside, chewy on the inside, with a delicious yeasty bready flavor. Exactly what I wanted. Oh wow, that is just wonderful. I have to have another piece. Oh, it's so good. So I paired it with a wine because, you know, pizza and wine go good together. Huge fan of Trader Joe's when it comes to wine. This is one of my new favorites. It's from Portugal. It's called Porto. Absolutely delicious. It's a red blend. It is wonderful. It goes great with pizza. Well, thank you so much for watching. I can't wait for you to try this pizza crust at home. Let me know if you have any issues whatsoever. gfexplorers.com. Send me a message. I will help you as much as I can. Make amazing pizzas. Let me know about it. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. The recipe, the full recipe, the link will be in the descriptions below. And until next time, happy eating. Whoopsie, don't do that. Message at gfexplorers.com. Sherman is equally excited. Expert move, but I know you can do it. Don't do that.